Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine, red and black. It's a mean machine, red and black. Ain't nothing but her in the land. Ain't nothing but her in the land. And a drunk on nuts is Georgia Bell. And a drunk on nuts is Georgia Bell. Go, no!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Tonight we are talking to ESPN rules analyst Matt Austin about some of the rule changes in college football for the 2024 season and the impact of some of the rule changes from the 2023 season. But before we get to that, how have you been and what are you drinking?
I've been good. Just have some water here. Just trying to, cleanse myself before the season actually starts. So giving my liver time to get ready. But dude, like this last week or so has been wild. Obviously, I mean, you know it more than probably anybody with hurricane, tropical storm Debbie coming through. Missed a couple days of school. If we lived about 2 miles further, I guess east down Highway 17, everything would be flooded. So we lucked out in that department. But yeah, man, just going through the motions before football season starts. How about you?
Good. So I actually played in a disc golf tournament yesterday. Was not planning on playing because I was one of the tournament directors. And then because of the flooding, there were some people that couldn't get there. And like 10 minutes before the tournament started, one of the other guys was like, "Hey, dude, if you want to play, like as long as you pay for the disc, you can play." And I was like, "All right."
There you
And the highest I have ever finished in any tournament I've ever played in, um, tied for 11th out of 36.
go. Okay.
So I'll take that. I was only 4 strokes behind the winner. Um,
Very
so
nice.
yeah, no, I'll definitely take that. But no, lost my train of thought. Been making stickers all day. We are making stickers for that event, the watch party, August 31st at Barrel House. Um, it is confirmed that Wes is coming,
Oh shit.
and
Let's go.
it is confirmed, but also at Two Tides in Starlin, no free ads, but I love that place. Friends with one, not friends, but I know one of the owners, great guy. They're having Slush Fest that day that goes until 8 p.m., which is just, they make, I think, 36 different alcoholic slushies. Um,
Okay.
so when the Georgia game's over, we're probably headed there. Um, but I am actually drinking a little bit today. I got this Knob Creek single barrel that I've been drinking on here a little bit. Don't plan on drinking too much, just a little stressed out with the sticker making process because the first time you do it is you waste a lot of sticker paper. I'll just say that.
hmm Yeah.
Um, but no, it's all good. I'm excited. I do want to just take a minute and talk about the flooding that's going on in our area because if you're not in tune with what's going on down here, um, one of the creeks close to Mike's house is flooding the highest it has ever flooded in recorded history. It is currently
Ever.
3 feet higher than the highest ever flood that has been measured. And the Ogeechee River, which is a massive river going through a lot of Georgia down into the Atlantic down here. Um, Earlier today, it was at 17.7 feet and getting higher above where it normally is. Um,
Mhm.
so there's people that literally have not been able to leave their house in 3 days and are getting rescued by first responders. So shout out to the first responders that are doing that for people.
Mhm.
Um, if you're one of those people that's trapped and we can do anything for you, let us know. I mean, obviously, we're part of the community down here. We'll do what we can. But also, I do want to personally shout out Richmond Hill First Baptist Church. So, when I was in the National Guard, 2016, Hurricane Matthew came through. We got activated, came down here. Richmond Hill First Baptist Church was the first hot meal I had had in 4 days because they
Yeah.
took us in. They were like, "Hey, we got showers in the back. There's clean bathrooms. Everybody that can get out of their house is over here cooking for you guys. Here's food. Sleep if you want to. Go take a shower. Place is yours for the day." And that was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Not much of a churchgoer, but the people at Richmond Hill First Baptist Church will always have a special place in my heart. And honestly, I do their sprinkler inspections now, so I have a chance to go in there and talk to the people, and they're all. It's not for show. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
They're all just phenomenal people, and I truly appreciate what they did for me at that point and what they are continuing to do because they're leading the volunteer effort for the community that's hurting down there.
Yeah, I mean to speak on that, not as serious of an extent as you had there, but they host my son that plays tackle football as well. He does flag football and he plays there this season. They're always really good about having water for their kids and all that. So like it's yeah they're great.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that I have the ability to go do their work now because I'll be honest, if I have spare parts in the truck that they need, I fix it for them. Like when you haven't had a hot meal or showered in 4 days, it life changing at that point, and I will always appreciate that.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like we have some fall camp stuff to hit on, and I completely forgot what I was going to talk about.
Oh, I do want to just say one thing while you're trying to get that pulled up. I know you hit on the I'm sorry, I don't know why my voice keeps going in and out. It's not like I've said anything today. Um, but with with Bear House South and our view watch party, I should say, on the 31st with Clemson again, just to kind of rehash what we talked about the last couple episodes. They're gonna have game day specials, beer buckets, beer towers, buckets of canned cocktails, Jameson and Absolute giving out free drinks and merch. So you got to check that out. Orlay will be there debuting their new game day menu that they're going to have available
And
all
I
season. Be
cannot
great.
emphasize enough how good Orale tacos are. Like
Dude,
they're not white like you can get I can't roll my R, so if you can speak Spanish and hear this, I
I can't
apologize.
I can't roll them either. No shame.
But birria tacos, phenomenal. Barbacoa, out of this world.
Hmm.
Um, Al Pastor, I I've had some like I've eaten at local restaurants in Mexico. So high bar. They're not quite at the eating in Mexico level, but for a taco place in a very tourist downtown area, they're the best tacos in downtown Savannah.
For sure. Hey, dude, like when we first moved here, that was the spot that my wife and I would go to all the time, especially on Taco Tuesday, buy one, get one free drinks and tacos and stuff. I mean, you couldn't beat it.
Oh yeah. And well, I guess it's not part of the I guess it's not necessarily part of this event, but the if you go to the other Orle Tacos location, just like local knowledge here,
Mm.
um, their margaritas are phenomenal.
What are they?
The margaritas at the other Orle
Oh,
Tacos,
oh, okay. Yeah.
uh, top tier margaritas.
Hmm.
Um, so couple of things from fall camp. I obviously didn't get to watch it. I don't donate that much money. Um, but apparently at the scrimmage on Saturday, Michael Williams in his new stand-up linebacker role along with defensive end just destroyed both first and second string offensive line. And Georgia's top three offensive line in the country coming into this year. So that's phenomenal news. True freshman running back Nate Frazier
Yes. Out of
had,
California.
yes, he had a day. He was breaking tackles from first string defense, had a ton of yards. I heard a lot of good things about Anthony Evans' performance, potentially getting into rotation at wide receiver and not just returner. Um, and I feel like there was something else. I cannot. Oh, Jalen Walker.
Okay.
Jalen Walker, as we've talked about, hybrid linebacker. We've spoken about it with, I want to say we talked about it with Candler earlier in the offseason. Um, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, really. He's going to be special.
Hmm.
Like in press conferences through fall camp, Kirby doesn't really talk about specific players unless they do something. Like Trayvon Walker, his freshman season, Kirby brought him up without being asked. Number one
Hmm.
overall pick.
Yeah.
Micah Williams, very similar thing. Jalen Walker got mentioned about how he is progressing and essentially defining his own role in the defense at
Love to
that
hear
hybrid
that.
inside outside linebacker role. And shout out Channing Tindall for, I honestly think his play in the 2021 season was the catalyst for them thinking that this is a viable move because
Mhm.
of his performance at both positions throughout the season.
Dude, I'm excited. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Matt, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We
Yes,
can.
sir.
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Yeah, doing well.
Great. Thanks.
All right, so we've already kind of introed it here. We are talking with Matt Austin, ESPN rules analyst. Before we get started, do you mind introducing yourself to any listeners that may be unfamiliar?
Not at all. You mentioned my name, Matt Austin. Been involved in football officiating for over 40 years. Spent the last 15 years of my career as an SEC referee. The previous 8 years, I worked smaller college, Ohio Valley, Mid South, which is NAIA, that sort of thing, and then a lot of years of high school before that. Married, 2 kids, 2 grandchildren. Just recently retired from my real job, so I'm living the life.
Awesome. There we go.
So we do want to get into the rule changes for this upcoming season. Starting with a new 2-minute warning, why did the NCAA decide to implement this rule now?
Okay, first off, I spoke with Steve Shaw, who is the Secretary of Rules editor of the rule book. It's not the 2-minute warning that's in the NFL. This is strictly a 2-minute timeout.
Okay.
Basically, it was implemented because at the bequest of the networks. TV gets usually 4 timeouts, sometimes 5, depending on the network in the last quarter, either the second or the second quarter or the fourth quarter of the game. And at times, they're always concerned that they're not going to get their last timeout in. They spend a lot of money or they get a lot of money to get those ads in, and they got to make sure they get them all. So basically, it was put in place to appease the networks that at 2 minutes left in the game, there will always be at least one timeout left for them. And that's exactly what it is. It's now if TV has 2 timeouts, they still need to get in. They still could get another one in, but they're always going to get one opportunity at 2 minutes, and it will be a regular media timeout. So depending on if it's CBS, ABC, ESPN, whatever the case may be, they all have different timeout formats and different lengths. It'll be a standard media timeout. Now, if this is a game with no TV, which is really odd in Division One nowadays, it would be strictly be a simple 1 minute and 5 second timeout. Then they're ready for play, and you got 25 seconds to snap the clock or snap the ball. Sorry.
So you kind of already mentioned this a little bit before, or in that answer, but kind of in general, for those that are not super familiar with it, generally, how long are these media timeouts, especially with this the 2-minute timeout that you talked about?
They're way too long.
Yeah, you're right.
They're always usually like 2:25.
Hmm.
Some get into 3.5 minutes. It just all depends on when it is in the game. But as an official on the field, especially in September when it's extremely hot down south, the timeouts just seem to go on and on. But they're almost always right around the 3-minute mark.
Yeah, I want to say one game last year because I've got season tickets to Georgia games. Drive up from Savannah way too often. It's a terrible drive,
It
mostly
really
back
is.
roads, but there was a timeout last year, media timeout, that I'm pretty sure I remember it correctly being 4 minutes. Like the clock that comes out on the field. And there was Sanford Stadium was just one long groan as soon as that happened.
I'll be honest with you. In my time, I never saw 4 minutes on the timeout clock. But nothing super. That seems a little lengthy in my opinion. I'm assuming it was a CBS game,
I believe
but
it was.
they tend to have the longest timeouts. So, but 4 minutes would be a little over the top in my opinion.
So moving on to the in-helmet communication, are there any guardrails on that moving into this season?
Yes and no. I mean, the nuts and bolts of it are you can only have one player on the offense and one player on the defense communicating with their coaches. You get shut off at 15 seconds prior to the snap or at the snap, whichever comes first. Um, the thank goodness the administration of the rule is left up to game management. If the officials on the field had to manage that, I can't imagine what a nightmare that would be. um, there's going to be, from what I understand, there's going to be one person in the booth which will handle the shutoff button for both teams. All of the top four now conferences are using the same equipment, so everybody's equipment should be compatible with everybody else's. So when the clock hits 15, they shut it off and we're good to go. Now, are there going to be errors when it's not shut off on time? I'm sure somebody's going to get um, distracted and not shut it off in time, but it will be the same for both teams.
Mhm.
If there is an ongoing issue at a school, there is the possibility for conference review, and they can do whatever they want to do with it. But again, what that will look like, I don't really know.
Would there be like an actual in-game penalty, like if it's known that like you said, it would impact both teams? Like, is there anything in place that would, uh, I don't know, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here. John, you had this question.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would say no, because the
Yeah.
officials aren't going to even know about it most likely.
Okay.
One team, I don't know how one team could complain that theirs was shut off, and if they're shut off early for some reason, again, the officials have been directed, don't get involved in this. This is game management. Let whoever the game manager is take care of this.
Mhm.
so
I would think if there's a problem, either it didn't turn on at all, which would be a equipment malfunction, with both teams would have to be let know. But again, the officials can't do anything about that. If it's shut off late, then I can't see a coach complaining about it, because now there's always gamesmanship within a game. I get that. So if you're the defensive coach and yours stays on a little bit longer and you can react, who knows? So I can see an offensive coach complaining that, hey, ours stayed on too long, so therefore theirs must have too. They can make adjustments that we couldn't. I can see all kinds of complaints. But again, game management's responsible, and then they can direct it to the commissioner.
so question that's not in the outline, but thought of it from your answer. For teams that run a hurry up offense and snap the ball with a lot of time left on the play clock, do they get communication up until the snap with there being that
Yes.
much time?
Yes.
Okay.
The snap or 15 seconds, whichever comes first.
Okay. That's interesting. So just specifically like Ole Miss and other teams that run that sort of offense will have communication up until the snap most of the time.
Yes. And again, the defense will too.
Okay.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting wrinkle.
Yes.
So what impact would the proposed injury report rules have if implemented in 2024?
I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure. Again, that's something that the officials never get involved in with injury reports. So I really don't have a good answer to that, to be honest with you. That's not something we would ever be concerned with.
Mhm.
So we did want to hit on a couple, or I guess one thing from the rule changes for last season. How much of an impact did the clock changes have last season?
In talking to, again, Steve Shaw, I think 4 to 5 minutes was the average shortness of the game. And that translated to, depending on the schools, obviously averages of 4 to 5 plays per game that were taken out of the football game. So not a great effect in my opinion. But again, an offensive coach who wants to run as many plays as he can, he may see that differently. But it's nice to the officials. The officials want to get out of there as soon as they can. Well, I don't want to put it that way because the officials love what they do. So to say that, hey, we want to get off the field, but we want to get off the field clean and not have any issues. So, but again, 4 to 5 plays, I don't think that's a big deal in getting the game over a little bit faster.
All right, so let's move on to everyone's favorite topic of targeting. So can you define the current rule for targeting?
Sure. Well, there's 2 types of targeting. The first is targeting a defenseless player. So a defenseless player could be a quarterback who's in the act of passing the ball. It could be a receiver who's crossing over the middle with his concentration is 100% on the ball and not on getting hit. A blindside player, those types of things. I think there's like 9 different categories of defenseless player, but as the book will say, that's not an exhaustive list. Any player could be considered defenseless under the right circumstances. The people who are not defenseless are ball carriers or runners. If you're running with the ball, then you are not considered a defenseless player. So when you have a defenseless player, the defense is prohibited from hitting him forcibly to the head and neck area, because that's obviously a very dangerous hit. We've all seen the quarterback standing in the pocket, looking downfield. Here comes the defensive lineman coming in. He launches, hits the quarterback in the head with either his helmet or his forearm or something like that. Could be an extremely dangerous hit. So those are the obvious ones. The second one is crown of the helmet. And the crown of the helmet is defined by a 6-inch radius on the top of the helmet. So basically they want for the hit to be illegal, they want it to be with the very top of the helmet, not near the face mask, not the side of the helmet. They want the very, as we say, the button on the top of the helmet. If the hitter hits any player anywhere on the field with the crown of his helmet, it's a foul for targeting. So defenseless player, you got to hit him high. Crown of the helmet, you can hit him anywhere and it's considered a foul. And the crown of the helmet foul is that way because really it not only protects the player getting hit, but if you hit a guy in the chest and he's wearing a flak jacket, that's not going to do much damage. But if you're the hitter and you lower your head and you hit a guy with full force right in the chest with your neck down, there's a risk of you breaking your neck. So that penalty is that foul is really put in place to protect the hitter as much as it is the person getting hit.
So, as the rule has changed over the years, in your opinion, is the current rule the best version of it?
I think it is. I don't know what else you could do to make it any safer. Defenseless players, the guy doesn't see the hit coming. Don't hit him in the head, hit him in the chest, hit him around the waist, whatever. And if you're if it's a crown of the helmet hit, all we ask is that if you're a defender making a tackle, keep your head up and see what you're going to hit. If you got your eyes up and you hit him with your face mask or the forehead, it's not a foul, and it shouldn't be unless you hit him in the head. And he's defenseless. So you're still going to have helmet-to-helmet contact. You're still going to have helmets that click together. Those are unavoidable throughout a football game. But as long as you don't take aim at a defenseless player high, and there's some other parts of the rule, it has to be forcible contact. It has to be an indicator, either a launch or an upward thrust or something to that effect. So I do think the rule is pretty well written as it is today.
So clarification on that, because this is honestly throughout the years of the targeting rule, my biggest issue with the rule is in a situation where you see it pretty much every game of somebody catches the ball or a running back is running the ball where they decide to lower their head at the last minute and then you get some sort of helmet to helmet, and that before this rule has been considered targeting in the past. But with this rule, you're saying forcible contact with launching or lowering. So if a guy is just running, making a tackle, and say the running back dips down and it's helmet to helmet, that's no longer targeting.
Well, let me back you up a second. If
Okay.
a running back is running with the ball and I'm coming in to make a tackle, if I keep my face up and I hit him in his helmet with my forehead or my face mask, even though I hit him in the head, it's not a foul. I mean, it's not a foul because he's not a defensive player.
Okay.
Now, the only way he would be a defensive player is one, he's already on the ground or possibly
Sure.
being driven back where he's totally in control of the defense and you come in and just take a hit to the head.
Sure.
So, but yes, and we talked about that at length when the rule first came in. What about a receiver lowering his head as he catches the ball and they just happen to click? What about a running back lowering his head like you just explained? Same thing. Sometimes it's unavoidable. But again, that's why they make the running back not a defensive player. So if you hit him anything except the crown of the helmet, you're okay. A receiver over the middle, same thing. You can hit him in the chest, you can hit him in the waist, hit him in the shoulder, any way you want to. Just don't hit him with the crown of your helmet, and you're fine. Or don't hit him in the head. But again, if you lower your head, if you lower your head and you hit him with the crown, then you're at risk no matter where you are in the field.
Gotcha. That clarifies it for me, and
Yeah.
doing college football stuff is a second job for me. So I think that explanation is going to help pretty much all of our listeners. Thank you very much.
Keep in mind there's got to be an attack, which is the indicator, and then there's got to be the forcible contact. Sometimes the defender is just standing on the field. The running back, as you said, comes in, lowers his head, and hits the running back or hits the defender. That's what we would consider absorbing the blow. So even if you hit him with the crown, if you're not delivering the blow, just absorbing it, then it wouldn't be fouled technically by rule.
Yeah, that clarified it so much for me. I truly appreciate that. The entire rule makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, 100%.
Good.
All right. Just a couple quick questions that we have left here. So is college football moving towards an alignment more so with NFL rules, do you think?
There's not a concentrated effort to do so. Some of the rules make sense to go with what the NFL is doing, i.e. the coach to player communication. I think that's a good adjustment. The problem in the past was the technology was expensive. The smaller schools couldn't afford it. NCAA has one rule book, whether you're Division III, whether you're the SEC, it doesn't matter. It was one rule book. So some of the technology was expensive for some of the small schools, so they stayed away from it. Nowadays, I think the technology is come down in cost, where it is easier for the smaller schools to implement it and have the same benefits. And like I said, the 2 minutes, the 2 minute timeout, again, has nothing to do with the NFL, has also to do with media. So it seems like we're headed that direction, but I really don't think we are. Now, that being said, the NFL spends millions of dollars a year in looking at fouls, looking at video. How can they make the game safer? Anything that I think the NCAA can do to make the game safer, if it mimics the NFL or not, is a great thing. So, we've got blindside blocks and things like that now. So, and then we've got the kickoff rule that has changed for the NCAA. We're not as drastic as the NFL will be this year, but anything that we can do to make the game safer, I think, is a good thing. But no, there's no effort to say, hey, the NCAA needs to become the NFL. That's not on anybody's radar. It's just some of these rules happen to fall in and mimic the NFL.
Okay.
So, with some rules being reviewable, but not all of them, is there going to be a time where all plays are reviewable? And I put it in here. As a Georgia fan, we're asking because we're all still upset about the Tyler Simmons offsides call where he was not offsides.
Understand. As an official, I certainly hope not. People complain about the length of games now. Can you imagine if every game was reviewable? Was the player's hand offsides in the neutral zone or not? We've got to give some credit to the officials on the field to, hey, there is some preventive officiating. Early, if a defensive end lines up with his hand, even with the football in the first play of the game, nobody's going to throw that flag. They're going to tell the guy, hey, back your butt up, get your hand back, stay on sides. We're going to try to be preventive officiate as much as we can. Tackles being too far back on a pass play early in the game. Hey, Talk them back up, get them on the line of scrimmage where they need to be. If all those things became reviewable, the games would be 5 hours long. And I don't think anybody wants that. People get upset now when they see 2 or 3 penalties play after play after play, back to back to back. It's like, come on, let them play. I can't imagine what that would look like if we would let every play be reviewable. Was a guy offside? Did a lineman leave a tick before the snap? And with HD TV nowadays, that's the world we live in. TV is so good now at picking up everything. No, you don't want every play to be reviewable.
Sure.
No. All right. Last question. Do you have a memorable, friendly, or just like a really good interaction with a player or coach that you kind of look back on and like that was awesome?
My career, I was really blessed. I lucked out in my SEC career. I got out pretty much unscathed with no big controversies. I'm sure I had a couple coaches upset with me for a call here or a no call there, that sort of thing. But all in all, I had good relationships with almost all of the coaches that I worked with. If I had to pick one, and it would probably be one that's not on anybody's radar, but Butch Jones when he was at Tennessee. Butch Jones and I, as it turned out, went to the same small D3 school in Northern Michigan. Not at the same time. I'm about 10 years older than he is.
Okay.
When he got hired, I was going down to work a scrimmage and I looked him up and found out that he and I went to the same small school. And now it didn't buy me a thing when I was officiating his games. He would yell at me like any other coach and any other official. But since he moved on out of the SEC, he and I have become pretty good friends. Mainly because we have that background.
What school was it?
It's a little school called Ferris State.
Ferris State, the Bulldogs. Yep.
That's right. If you're a hockey fan, you're probably familiar with Ferris State. Otherwise, nobody's ever heard of it. But yeah, he and I both graduated from there 10 years apart.
So, my wife and I both grew up in Southeast Michigan, and I mean, obviously, hockey's king. Well, amongst the most popular sports there. A lot of kids grew up playing, high school hockey and all that. Pretty much half of my senior class went on to play at Ferris State at some point.
Nice.
So that's, a small world.
Yeah. Where are you from? What town?
I lived in Detroit and I also lived in Livonia as well.
Okay. I grew up in a small town called Brooklyn. Nobody's ever heard of it.
Oh yeah, where MIS.
Yes, that's our claim to fame.
Yeah.
I don't have any Michigan ties, but since Savannah got a minor league hockey team, I've started following college hockey.
There you go.
Matt, we really appreciate you coming on. As someone who watches enough college football I was watching a game. I've watched 3 games from a decade ago today. My wife's already mad at me, but I learned quite a bit. So I really appreciate it. I know a lot of our viewers or listeners, because we do have some that are relatively new to college football, are going to appreciate the explanations. You're the best at what you do. I was going to ask when I emailed ESPN for you, and I was like, I don't want to be too picky, because when you explain rules through broadcast, to me, it's the most clear. So you phenomenal at your current job. Love what you do, and I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate that. Let me tell you one thing. You asked about new rules this year. There are a couple things which are going to that may affect things you see on the field. The biggest thing, and it's not technically a rule change. What they're calling it is an editorial change, or excuse me, point of emphasis. The line of scrimmage, all of this stuff with the defensive team stemming and the offensive team shifting at the last minute, all those kinds of things. There really is an emphasis by the NCAA to, if the quarterback claps emphatically and 2 a lineman and say a back want to shift from one side of the field to the other, if they do that in concert with the snap, the officials are being told, hey, that's a foul now. We're going to call false start.
Wow.
And we've been very picky on the defense for the past several years.
Yeah.
If the defense claps, if the offense is using a clap as its cadence and the defense claps, it's a foul for disconcerting signals no matter when. If they stem or shift from side to side and there's any exaggerated hand movement or anything like that, those things are all still in place. But the time of the offense being able to, on 3rd and 4, to snap down from a 2-point stance to a 3, in the hopes of drawing the defense off sides, those are all being put on the offense now. So I think early in the season, you may see a lot of false starts on the offense that you haven't seen before. And that's intentional. The NCAA, and I think it's a great rule, they just want 11 and 11 to line up and get a fair shake at the snap. Everybody be ready to play. No, don't try to trick anybody. Line up. If you want to go on one, you want to go on two, you want to go on a silent count, no problem. But make sure everybody's ready to play at the snap. I think it's a great point of emphasis for them. So kudos to the NCAA for making that one.
Yeah, and that's something that, through the research I did trying to come up with intelligent questions for you, I didn't find that in any articles or anything put out anywhere. So
again, it's not a rule
interesting.
change, it's a point of emphasis. So we're going to kind of tighten up things and make it more fair on both sides of the ball. The other thing that's kind of interesting, which I think is going to be kind of humorous for me in my new role, is teams are now allowed to have tablets on the sideline like the NFL has. Again, good rule. There's a lot of information that the coaches can show, pre-snap alignments, from the high end, from the high sideline or the high end zone, whatever the case may be, or the program feed. That's all great. But if a coach uses a tablet to come out to the sideline official to show them, hey, look at this, like we've all seen coaches point at the Jumbotron saying, hey, look at that, it wasn't a foul. If they do that, it's going to be an automatic foul. So
the get back coach has a second job.
Exactly. Don't show that tablet to the official because you may get a flag for that. So those are going to be a couple interesting things I think to see on the sideline this year.
That's interesting.
With the tablets, we won't have the quarterback on a landline with the offensive coordinator for probably for a while.
I wouldn't think so. I think he'd be sitting next to a position coach. They'd be pointing things out and that sort of thing. So those are going to be some interesting changes to see this year.
Wow.
Awesome. No, this may be the episode I've learned the most on throughout the off season, so I truly appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your kind words. And if I may take a couple seconds for a public service announcement.
Absolutely.
And I speak to a lot of civic groups. I speak to a lot of quarterback clubs. And the one thing I always lead with is this. I think I think all sports officiating at the top levels, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, major college, I think it's in a great position right now, probably as good as it's ever been. But a generation from now, I don't think I'll be able to say that. And it's because the sportsmanship or lack thereof that we see at the lower levels, and I'm talking middle school, Pop Warner, Little League football, Little League basketball, those types of things, the behavior from fans and coaches is horrible. And it's driving good young potential officials out of the sports. Every sport is crying for officials today. And I don't care if you're talking soccer, baseball, basketball, everybody is crying for young officials to get involved in the game. But the generation of children that we have raised nowadays aren't really high on taking criticism. So when they're getting screamed at by a mother or a grandmother, and when you're in a small venue, you can hear every word they say. The associations are doing a good job by recruiting a lot of people to start. They're not doing a good job in retaining people because of the sportsmanship that the people are seeing. And people officials aren't going to put up with it anymore. They're going to move on and go do something else. So the pool to draw from in 15 or 20 years is going to be much smaller, and we're going to have to settle for officials at the top levels, in my opinion. And it's horrible. So fans out there that are listening to this, when you go to a middle school game, when you go to a high school game, leave the officials alone. They're trying to learn their craft. Mm-hmm. How would you like it if you were a CPA and I stood behind you and yelled, screamed at you and called you names and said, no, that's in the wrong column, or that's a debit, not a credit. Are you a moron? Nobody would put up with that. Nobody put up with things that sports officials have to. So, and then trust me, you learn from your mistakes. So an official that makes a mistake in a middle school game will carry that mistake for the rest of his life, and he won't do it again. So you don't want those guys you don't want these guys in Athens making an error on the football field that they should have made 10 years before on a Little League field. But they've been promoted so quickly because they were the best that was available. So please do a better job maintaining decorum. Be nicer to the officials. They're young. They're learning their craft. So
I mean, I can speak to that 100%. I'm with you there totally because I'm a middle school PE teacher, my day job, and I coach baseball in the spring. And the stuff that you hear parents and other coaches say, whoa, it's middle school. There's 10 people in the stands. It is insane. Like I'll ask for clarification about something and move on. But I couldn't imagine. That's people ask me to referee stuff all the time. I'm like, there's not a chance. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting screamed at for little to no money.
And there's nothing worse than going out to a Little League game and seeing a 16-year-old kid out there who thinks he might want to try to be an official, and he's getting screamed at from the first pitch. That was low. Come on, And the trouble is, you hear every word they say. You want to go to an SEC game or an NFL game, the officials don't hear a word you say. You knock yourselves out, scream all you want to. Doesn't matter. But on a Little League field or a high school field, they hear everything you say. And it drives too many good young officials out of the game. And we're doing ourselves a disservice by treating them that way. We all love sports. That's why we're at the games. So let the officials learn their craft and let them get better at it.
So if someone wanted to get started in refereeing, what's the best way to do that to try and bolster the forces there?
Well, I live in Kentucky, but every state I'm sure is set up very similar. They all have a state high school association. I would recommend if you want to officiate any sport, reach out to your the Georgia High School Athletic Association. Not even sure if that's the right name or not, but yes. I would reach out to them. Write a letter to, I don't know where they're headquartered, Athens or Atlanta maybe. Send them call them. Say, hey, how do I become official? They will send you all the information that you need. They probably all have websites that you can go to. Click on, I want to be a sports official or football official, whatever the case may be. They'll send you a test. They'll send you rule books. You send them $50, whatever the fee is nowadays, and you can get signed up. They will hook you up with a local association. I'm sure every town now is affiliated with one somewhere. They will work at training you to be an official in whatever sport you're interested in. So most of the associations do a wonderful job training the young officials. They put them on games that they're ready to officiate, which the first game out, you're not ready to officiate anything. So it'll be a middle school or a little league game. But they'll get you out there and get your feet wet. They'll move you along slowly. They'll teach you the rules. They'll teach you the mechanics. It's football officiating was wonderful, or sports officiating in general was great to me. I worked a lot of different sports. When my wife and I got married and ended up moving to Kentucky, she said, hey, pick one. And I happened to pick football, and it worked out very well for me. But it doesn't matter what sport you love, they are in need of officials. And if you want to get involved, talk to your state association. They'll direct you on where to go.
I actually played football in South Central Kentucky for a while, and I never had issues with referees.
Good. Whereabouts?
I was in Metcalfe County.
Okay.
Real small, close to Glasgow, Edmonton. Yeah, we pretty much everybody on the team played offense and defense where I was at because we had 30 kids.
I went to a small school in Michigan, same way. I laugh because when I moved to Kentucky, coming from Michigan, everybody called whatever town you live near. Even though my little small town, Brooklyn, is actually a village. It's not even a town. It's so small. But everybody said, oh, you're from Brooklyn. When I got to Kentucky, everything was county. So I knew where Lexington was. I knew where Bowling Green. I know where Louisville was, but I didn't know where any of the counties were. So I had to get out a map to find out where to go officiate.
Yep. No, I lived in a town of about 400 people and a single stop sign called Noblet.
There you go. I'm from the proverbial one stoplight town, so understand.
Once again, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before you get out of here?
I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity and glad you guys reached out, and I wish you the best on your podcast.
Thank you very much. We're gonna
go dogs.
Go dogs. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're gonna.
I can say that now that I'm not affiliated with SEC anymore.
We love it. We're gonna finish up some like cleanup into episode things, but we appreciate you coming on.
Not a problem. Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Yep. You too.
Awesome. We once again appreciate Matt coming on and talking to us. I was not blowing smoke when I said I think he is the best in the business at what he does. I what I said about I was going to ask for him and I didn't want to be picky, that was complete truth. Anytime I
Mhm.
watch a game on ESPN and he's the guy that comes on, you don't have questions about the rules. He knows how to explain it in a way that everybody understands it, and I truly believe he is the best at what he does.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I feel 100% better about the targeting explanation. Like that was really good.
like, let me try and figure out what I'm trying to say here. I've watched football my entire life. The targeting
Mhm.
rule has been in place for over a decade now. That is the clearest and best explanation I have ever heard.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys, I hope you guys learned something from this, but also if you did learn the actual true definition from a referee's perspective of how targeting is implemented, share the episode because football fans, top to bottom, I think can learn something from this. If you were watching your first football game when Florida State and Georgia Tech play August 24th, or you're watching your 100,000th football game when Florida State plays Georgia Tech August 24th, you probably learned something from this. And
Mhm.
I'm not trying to bullshit and hype us up from that because I legitimately watched 3 different games today along with highlights from. I watched 45 minutes of highlights from the 2007 season to talk about the episode we're about to do. Like
Yeah.
I have watched an insane amount of football for it to be August 11th today. And I learned more than I thought I would from this episode. So
Yeah.
once again, shout out Matt, shout out ESPN for hooking this up for us. Probably my fault why we didn't get someone on last year. Probably waited too long. So at least 38% of the shade I've thrown at ESPN over the last year, I apologize. That's just me being salty. But I do say what I mean and mean what I say. So 38%. Um,
It's an interesting number. It's like
yeah,
Steiner math.
yeah. I'm not a mathologist. I don't know what 38% is. But thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys share this episode. Whether people listen to one episode or everyone we've ever done, everyone we will do, I think people can learn something from this, and I truly hope you do. Um, but if you're going to be in Savannah on August 31st, come check us out at Barrel House South. We're really excited. We're planning on having a good time. We're working on getting t-shirts and stickers, and if I can get some more slave labor out of my wife, we're going to get some koozies out there to, sell, give out, all that kind of stuff. Um, check out our merch on millions.co for things.
And if you ask Wes, he'll show you his feet, I'm sure. Give him another drink. He'll make you more than that.
Look, Wes is cheap. You give him like 2 drinks, and you might be able to go home with him. Preferably to your hotel, because he is staying in the spare bedroom that is literally sharing walls with a master bedroom, and I don't want to hear what y'all are doing. But we appreciate you guys listening. Follow us on all of our social medias at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at finderpod on Twitter. Look us up on Facebook and YouTube. We are Nothing Finder Podcast on TikTok. Um, if you haven't already, rate and review the show 5 stars. I'm trying to find a way to make this quicker every week and always forget something. But as always, guys, remember there's nothing finer in the land.
Then a drunken obnoxious Georgia fan.